this session I want to talk to you about how we do outsourcing. I run a company called Melbourne SEO Services, and this is outsourcing in the real world, and I want to actually show you behind the scenes the way that we work with clients' websites, what sort of systems and procedures we put in place to make sure it runs smoothly. I'm going to take you through what I call the SEO method, and this is the step-by-step process that we use for ranking. Now, we applied that to a whole lot of our own websites, started to get some great results, and then thought, okay, now let's take this out to small businesses, small to medium-sized businesses, to get their websites ranking as well. So I wanted to make sure that we documented this procedure very early on, and we ran a workshop in Melbourne. It was only to a very small group, and we had about 20 people in the room. It was mainly for my staff, but we also had some outside people that came on board as well. Now, one of the most talked about, and the story that we got, or the session that we got the most feedback from, was the outsourcing section. So it started to bubble up in my mind, why is outsourcing so popular? I wanted to understand, why is it that everybody wants to know how to outsource and outsource really well? So I came up with this idea. I'm sitting there going, why does everybody want to know how to do outsourcing? And it's this idea of, you've got so many different ideas that are getting fired at you, and if you imagine having a look at that screen, the yellow, the red and the orange arrows, and you're in the middle, you're getting all of this information that's coming into you from different product launches, from going through the challenge. The issue that you have is not that you don't have enough ideas. You have enough ideas. You have enough of what it is that you need to be really, really successful already inside your mind. You've learnt it by going through the challenge process. The problem is getting through to the implementation, and that's what that green arrow is on the other side. So you are the bottleneck that's causing your business not to grow at the rate at which it could. Now, what is the solution to that? You obviously need to build a team around you to make sure that you can get all of these ideas that are coming into you and then push them out and make sure that they happen. So you need a team. But now we have a new problem. So the problem is that you can't afford it. If you try and do it locally and you try and get people to come in and work in an office for you, you get a university student and you'll be paying him $15 an hour, $20 an hour. So the solution being, well, you can look at offshore. And this is something that everybody's hearing more and more about, the ability to tap into this global marketplace. You can tap into what I call geo-arbitrage, this idea that there are countries around the world where the cost of living is much, much less. Some people, when they think about offshore, it's this idea that you might be creating a sweatshop or something like that and you're paying people $1 a day. I'm not talking about that sort of thing. When I bring someone on to our team at Melbourne SEO Services, I make sure I treat them like gold. I know there are internet marketers out there that talk about outsourcing to the Philippines and to other places, and they talk about this idea that you can hire people for $2 and $3 an hour. Yes, you can do that, but often you get what it is that you pay for. So by paying $5 and $6 an hour, it still represents fantastic opportunity for us and our business because of that geo-arbitrage, but it means I get a much higher quality and caliber of person. So all of my team, I treat them like gold, and that's another thing. People have this misconception when you're working in outsourcing that they're somehow second-rate citizens, and you need to understand that they're people too. So creating them a good environment to work with, they buy into what it is that you're doing, they buy into the dream and the business of what it is that you're trying to build, and then they'll give you 110%. So I just wanted to give you this idea. When you're thinking about outsourcing, and you'd heard the term outsourcing, you might have even heard the term outtasking. Right now, what I want you to do is, in your mind, think, where am I? In the scheme of outsourcing, this is almost like levels. Level 1 is outtasking, level 2 is outsourcing, and level 3 is insourcing. So in your mind, think, where am I right now? Outtasking is this idea that if you need something done, you might head over to vWorker or Elance or Scriptlance or something like that and post a job on there. It's a one-off job. Or the difference between outtasking and outsourcing. Outtasking is just once off. Every time you have to keep retraining the individuals on what it is that you need done. Outsourcing, typically speaking, you have an individual or a group of people who do repeating tasks for you. So if you need to get an article written and you're getting an article written on a regular basis, then that's a process, and you've got the same process that happens every time. So getting someone to outsource and work with you on a regular basis is a much better way to go and much more efficient, because now you're not having to retrain and teach someone the same thing every time like you would with without tasking. So as you're moving down the ranks, the last one that I wanted to talk about is insourcing. This idea of insourcing is where you want to get to, and it's the idea of building this team around you and bringing them in as part of your team and training them up and getting them involved in your culture of what your business is and getting them to buy into what it is that you're doing. As Ed mentioned, you know, for me to get out the volume of great material that I do, I can't do it on my own. And by now you guys have probably all recognised as well, you can't do this on your own. You need to build a team. So how do we actually make this happen? How do we pull it all together? And I almost feel like I should have chatted with Eugene first, or it almost feels like we did chat first, because he was talking about planning out how it is that you're going to grow. And that's really what I'm going to take you through now, this idea of, well, how can we grow what it is that we're doing and have a real plan to do that? And then the next step, and I got this a little bit from Rich Sheffrin, he talks about this idea of then thinking about staffing. What staff would you need to make this happen? So you need to think about operations, marketing, fulfillment. Step one, make sure that you get your profit model. Step two, think about your resourcing. Very few internet marketers do this, and it's for this reason when they come to outsourcing, they do it wrong. They hire someone and they try and keep them busy with tasks. They might get someone from the Philippines because they think $3 and $4 an hour, $5 an hour, whatever, I'll get them doing these mundane tasks. You need to be a lot more focused than that now, because you know better. This idea that you now know what it is that you're trying to build, you now know what staffing that you need, and then you start to hire accordingly based on what it is that you're actually looking to get the person to do, rather than just giving them tasks to keep them busy, but rather giving them tasks to get closer to your end goal. Then we do step three, and I'm not going to go into step three in a huge amount of detail other than the hiring process. And we use what we call the George Foreman method. And we call it that because we really grill the people when they're coming on board to work with us. So this is my SEO method, SEO method 2.0. Steve Ovens is currently working on the product launch for this. No one's seen this yet. This is sort of like the evolution of that. This is the way that we do our link building for clients and for our own websites. An assistant has to do two things. They have to be there for the start of day phone call to plan out what it is that they're going to work on, and then they also have to submit an end of day email. Now, the end of day email is just an email that they'll send through saying, here's what I worked on, here are any issues and challenges that I had, and here are any questions that I had. So tying both of these two together, this is how you start to work with assistants, because I think one of the biggest concerns people have when working with people offshore is, are they really going to be doing the work? You know, how can I make sure that they're doing the work? And some people talk about this idea of having screen capture software and, you know, taking snapshots of what it is your assistants are doing. I don't think that's the way to go, because what is that like? That's saying, I don't trust you enough to know that you're going to put in good work. So again, this is why the actual hiring component is so important, to make sure that you get good people. And you put in systems and procedures like this just to make sure there are good checks and measures, but you don't have to sit over someone. No one likes that feeling of feeling like they're sat over. So this is how we get over that. We have that start of day call, then we have the end of day email. At least once a month, I'll get on the phone with the assistant, or the supervisor will, and ask them, you know, well, firstly, how are things going? You know, how's your day been? How's your wife? How's the kids? All that type of stuff. Just to let them know that we're there for them and we actually care. Like, I care about all of the people that work with me, because they enable me to do what it is that I do. So we have one-on-ones, and we also ask them, what are you working on? What are you enjoying? What are you not enjoying? And then we'll try and mix up the tasks to make sure that they've got some different things that they are working on. Then we also have team meetings, and this is something that I started to implement to make sure that we tied our team closer together and make them realise they're part of a team. Again, this is probably more so when you start to do insourcing and it's part of your team as opposed to out-tasking. You're not really going to get someone on vWorker who only doing one task for you to jump on a team meeting call. So at this point in time, you might feel that I've started to open a can of worms, like introducing the idea of outsourcing, and we talked about the different levels and all that type of stuff. How do I find the talent? How much do I pay them? How do I handle security? Where do I start? How to design the systems? What tools to use? And that's probably just scratching the scratch of the surface. This is something that you need to figure out, because I showed you, you need to build a team. You are the bottleneck. These are the questions that you need to start thinking about finding the answers to.